ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यभिमः योगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ Namaste to everyone and welcome to this camp. We have chosen a topic for 3 talks. Meditation on Meditator. So we have to understand individually what is meditation, what is its role, who is meditator. If meditator is already known, there cannot be a topic in the camp, right? So meditator also should be, yes, we should be familiar. I am meditator, that's all right. But frankly speaking, I am not meditator. Unless and until we do a certain steps in a meditation to arrive at the meditator. So who is meditator? Knowing the meditator, what is the benefit? Big benefits, big, very big. And once you become a meditator, you relate to Ishwara mentally. That's called meditation. If you don't be a meditator, then you cannot do a successful meditation. And therefore, what is essential is, before you really meditate on Ishwara, you should do certain preliminary step meditation to arrive at the meditator. So these are the things we are going to discuss. Very simple. Yes, such. Topic is not that difficult. Only I am highlighting certain things which is very essential. And as such, meditation is a part of a, the means, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasana, etc. Nididhyasana also is a meditation. Meditation, we call it contemplation on the self, etc. But anyway, so first we'll discuss today what is meditation and why it is required, what is the benefit, etc. The definition of meditation is Saguna Brahma Vishaya Manasa Vyapara. That's a Sanskrit definition. A mental activity related to Saguna Brahma Ishwara. That's called meditation. Vyapara means an activity. Manasa Vyapara. Manasa is an adjective. Mental activity. Thereby, we are excluding all physical activity. We are excluding all verbal activities from the definition of meditation. And therefore, you do puja. It's a physical activity. Of course, verbal and mental activity is there. But it's not just mental activity. Therefore, doing puja is not a meditation. Chanting a hymn, Vishnu Sahasranama, etc., is also not meditation because it's a verbal activity. Of course, mind may be there behind. But the same things, puja, if you do just mentally to the altar, which you have visualized, then it becomes meditation. You chant Vishnu Sahasranama, any hymn in praise of the Lord, just mentally. Some people do. They chant whole without any kind of a whisper also. They chant entire Vishnu Sahasranama in the mind. It's meditation. There is something else also is there in meditation, but this is regarding a general definition of meditation. Now here we said, Asaguna Brahma Vishaya Manasa Vyapara, the mental activity. Any thinking is a mental activity. So even if we have removed physical activity from the definition of meditation, verbal activity, mental activity is meditation, that's not correct. Because any thinking is a mental activity. And therefore sadness is a mental activity. No one is sad without thinking. No one is angry without thinking. No one is jealous without thinking. No one feels proud without thinking. And therefore, any mental activity is meditation if we say, then, well, we have to include sadness, jealousy, any emotion in a definition of meditation. Then definitely we should say that this person is all the time in meditation because he remains sad all the time. Person gets angry all the time also. So then that person also is in meditation all the time. No, Saguna Brahma Vishaya. The mental activity whose subject matter is just Ishwara. So, any mental activity related to Brahman as a Ishwara is meditation. And we have to definitely know what is Ishwara also, definitely, because he is going to be the object of meditation. Anyway, so the entire Jagat, of course, is a manifestation involving a power, Shakti. So Ishwara being the creator of this Jagat, definitely he is non-separate from the Shakti. We generally call Maya, etc. And that is the material cause. Ishwara, the creator, the maker. The Shakti is the material. But Shakti being non-separate from Ishwara, we sometimes say Ishwara is the maker, Ishwara is the material. Right? Even right now, I speak something due to some power, speaking power, which is non-separate from me. Right? Otherwise, I can send my speaking power here. I can remain in my room. But that doesn't happen. Wherever I go, my power also will be there. So a conscious being with its power is a creator. Speaker right now, creating words. Same way, this Ishwara, well, basically is the maker, is the material cause. And therefore, he is all pervasive. So with reference to this manifestation of Jagat, well, the same Brahman, our Atma, Brahman, is called Ishwara, maker and material, both. So Ishwara being all pervading, pervades everything, pervades me also. So Ishvara definitely includes my body, mind, sense, everything, and everybody's body, mind, senses. So from the material standpoint, same Ishvara, we call it as a she. From the maker's standpoint, same Ishvara is called he. Ishvara alone is he and she. That's what we see in Lord Dakshinamurti. Through the earrings, sizes of the earrings are different. One is bigger, other is smaller. Male, female. Sometimes we call Ardhanarishvara also. Ishvara alone from the standpoint of material cause is called Ishvari. We worship in Navaratri. And same Ishvara from the standpoint of the maker is called he. Anyway, so if Ishvara pervades me, pervades everything being material, well, why do I still identify myself as an individual? Right? There is no need. Everyone should say what? There is Ishvara. What is Ishvara? Everyone has to say this. But no. I identify myself as an individual, maybe perhaps different from Ishvara. So, the answer for that is, well, my consciousness definitely as an individual, well, is limited to where my body ends. And that is very clear. For instance, suppose, it is not going to happen, but I'm just saying. Suppose if bullet goes through, between my fingers, passes through between my fingers, I said, thank God, I am saved. Why? Because I know I am in the fingers, but I am not in between the space. That's how I said I am saved. That shows very clearly wherever the body is, that is what I am. So I have, as though from the total, I have carved out myself as an individual. My consciousness is limited to this body. That's how we have a sense of an individuality. Anyway, so Ishvara pervades all the individuals, my body, mind, sense complex, but my consciousness is limited to the body, in the body, as the self, while I say I am an individual. And that is true to a empirical level, at a relative level. I am an individual and he is total. Ishvara is total, he pervades me, etc. There is a relationship between an individual and the total. All the time I am related, etc. also is true. And for that they used to give an example, very beautiful example, that the tree pervades, the forest pervades the tree. Tree is an individual. Well, of course, and it is related to the forest. Forest definitely pervades the tree. Tree does not pervade the forest. That is understood. But definitely forest pervades the tree. So there is a relationship between an individual tree and the forest. It's an individual, the forest is total. They give us other example also from a little different standpoint. Just as that wave that arises from the ocean and, well, belongs to ocean, merges into ocean, but still the one wave in that ocean can identify itself, can just identify with that name and form, and say, I am a big wave. Other wave will identify with another, with a particular form and say, I am a small wave, etc. So basically any wave belongs to ocean. Ocean pervades all the waves. But that wave has, because of the identification, wave has a sense that I am a wave, etc. So same way I am the individual who is all the time connected to Ishvara. All the time connected. It's not, people say, in meditation, in dhyanam, I connect to Ishvara. No. You are already connected because Ishvara pervades you. Therefore, you are all the time connected. A tree is all the time connected to the forest. Then meditation is for what? Meditation is to highlight that connection. Meditation is meant to highlight that connection. Meditation is meant to make me realize that I'm connected to Ishwara. That's it. You are already connected, it's a fact. But it should become a reality for you. That is the thing. And Ishwara being pervading everything, you can invoke Ishwara in any form, since all forms are Ishwara. And you can relate then mentally, which is called meditation. And you relate mentally also in a different way. Either you visualize an altar, and you do a Manasa Puja, or you visualize a altar, you recite some prayer, or you visualize a altar, and you have some mental japa, Manasa Japa, chant, etc. All the three ways you can relate to. Generally, we focus here on a japa. It has a that's a meditation which has a very visible result. Invisible result we need not talk about. Invisible result is what? Punyam. Since you relate to Ishvara through chanting, mental chant, japa, punyam will be all the time there. But we are interested in some visible result. In fact, even though this mental activity, manasa karma, chanting, manasa japa, produces both the types of results, visible and invisible, but visible result is more compared to invisible punyam. In puja, it is just reverse. Since all the limbs are involved in doing puja, the invisible result, punyam, is more compared to visible results. You may get a certain satisfaction after doing puja, that's okay, that's a visible result. But in a dhyanam, in meditation, etc., visible result is more compared to, because the least limbs are involved, only mind is involved. In puja, all the three, body, mind, and our senses, basically, especially the speech, also are involved. All the three are involved. So, invisible result is more, visible result is less. But in dhyanam, visible result is more. Let's look into this visible result of this meditation. Manasa Japa. So, in order to understand this, we need to have an insight into the nature of the mind. So, mind is always, busy, restless, etc. That's what even Arjuna complained. Chanchalam hi manah krishna pramati balavad dhrudam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. He has in fact compared also that mind is so restless, like a air, wind. Instead of air, it's wind. All the time moving. That's how one of the name in Amarkosha for this wind or vayu is Sadagatihi. You can understand? Sadagatihi. All the time. Either at this point it is here, the next moment it is somewhere else. It's all the time. Sadagatihi. All the time moving. Same way, this mind also is, the nature of mind is restless. And it is very busy. And this shifting nature, the changing nature of this mind, we call it as a vrittis. We basically momentary vrittis. And when we look into this nature of this mind, the thinking, it is very interesting to observe that how the mind moves from one object to the other. When it moves from one object to the other, there is a rhyme and reason. But we remain not conscious of it. And without that, the mind keeps moving. So there are many simultaneous tracks, of course, in the mind, and nobody knows that how and when the mind basically, changes those tracks or channels all the time. I will give you an example. You see a police car. You are taking a walk. This has happened with me, believe me. And you see a police car. Now seeing a police car has entered into your mind. Now in which channel it will go, nobody knows. From police car, definitely, you remember some incident, shooting incident. I don't want to make you sad, but I'm just telling you. I wanted to at the same time prove that when you become sad, already there is a thinking involved. That's what I wanted to prove. That's how I am giving you this example. Swami, don't give this example, but I really want to say something about it. So, when you see a police car, well, definitely from there you remember some incident happened somewhere, shooting incident, etc. From there you go to the increasing crime in the United States. From there you go to that the government has to do something. From there you go to president. From there you go to anywhere. From there you may go to some party also, Republican. I mean, anywhere. Or this is one channel. Or you see a police car and you find that here the police is very efficient. And they have a lot of equipments and this and that, and they can, easily, catch the criminal and this compared to our country. In our country, it is India, I'm saying. This is like that. So this is second channel. Third channel, seeing the police car, well, you definitely, you remember a boy whose father was basically was killed just 3 days ago. While investigation, he was investigating some homicide, and he was killed. And then this boy, after a few days, well, he was led to, escorted to the school. And all the police officers on both the sides, they stood in a line. So, any channel, seeing one thing, which channel the then mind goes into in a thinking, nobody knows. Means a lack of mastery over the mind. That is the thing. And then the solution is simple, Swamiji. Ultimately, this is thinking, right? Yeah. So then we should stop thinking. That's what doctors do. The person becomes depressed. Then they give certain sedative. After a few hours, he gets up and they find he's too depressed. Again, they give some sedative. And after certain doses, the person gets up like a zombie and moves around. So thinking to stop thinking is a solution. To stop thinking is a solution in order to, so that it doesn't result into this kind of an incident, in this kind of negative emotions, etc. Well, but you are thinking right now, right? Since 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you are thinking. But there is no sadness. There is no anger, hopefully. There is no jealousy. There is no pride. Therefore, thinking leads to all the problems is not a correct thinking. Thinking leads to sadness is not correct. In sadness, there is a thinking that is there. Yeah. That shows there is a certain type of thinking leads to this. Thinking itself is a great privilege. Everything, this hall is a result of thinking, right? Everything, all human progress is because of thinking. So thinking is a privilege, in fact. A proper thinking is required. Certain type of thinking should be avoided. For that, I require a mastery over the ways of thinking. That's it. For that only, this is a solution. Meditation will be seeing that. So thinking is a privilege of the human being, but it can become a problem because thinking can often lead to this worry, depression, sadness, jealousy, etc. Even lust also. So, of course, you can't become sad without thinking. In deep sleep, of course, we are free from thinking. There is no sadness, no jealousy, no pride, no lust. Because we don't think. So without thinking, of course, well, you can't be angry. Without thinking, you can't be jealous. Without thinking, you can't be sad. But basically, when thinking leads to such kind of an emotion, your mind is not a mind. It's not a conscious mind. Already the will is dripped. And it has come to the mode of machine. 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 All this, our motor, etc., we call machine. Where there you have a particular revolutions per minute. It has been set. And it goes like that. No motor thinks in between. Now since 3 hours I am revolving at this speed. Let me now decrease. Or let me have a break for a coffee. Nothing. If motor has this kind of a will-based action, definitely it is not a machine. It's not a machine. And therefore, a mind also which comes to the mode of a machine, mechanical thinking. Machine we call as a mechanical. Then it definitely ends up in an emotion which you don't want. And you see, any negative emotion, if I tell you at this moment, try to get angry now. Try to be jealous at this point. Try to be proud at this point. Try to be lustful at this point. You can't. It doesn't mean that, oh, I have become free from anger and lust. No. With a conscious thinking, when the will is involved, etc., when the mind is conscious, well, and the will is involved, I can't get this kind of emotions, basically. So, definitely, when our will is dripped, definitely it leads to this kind of a negative emotions. And therefore, if somebody is angry, etc., it is not a good point to say, don't be angry. Because he is not, it leads to further anger. Don't be angry. Don't be proud, etc. Don't be jealous. This is not going to work actually. Because all these negative emotions, well, happens due to mechanical thinking. Anger happens. Jealousy happens. Everything happens. Consciously, you cannot get this kind of an emotion. So, definitely, that shows I don't have a say over certain ways of thinking, certain conditions of the mind, and because the mind becomes mechanical, and that is what we generally call it as a reaction. Action and reaction, the difference is this. When mind is conscious, deliberate, behind an action, we call action. When mind is not basically deliberate, well, definitely, still whatever the thinking happens, we call it as a reaction because it results into this kind of negative emotions. Okay. That's fine. This is an issue. That's what Arjuna said also. Chanchalam mana Krishna, etc. How to now bring the mind under control, how to get the mastery over the mind, how to have, we should have a say over our thinking. For that, Shastra only has to give a solution. Why? Because ultimately Shastra wants to give you the knowledge. When it wants to give you the knowledge, it should also see that you should have a fit instrument of knowledge. So in order to make the mind a fit for receiving, retaining the knowledge, and ultimately assimilating the knowledge, in our case, definitely they should provide a method by which you will have a conscious thinking, deliberate thinking, free from mechanicalness, free from reactions, free from negative emotions. We call basically Antakarana Shuddhi. So, well, there is a logical method by which, well, given by the Shastra, of course, by which we can definitely have a mastery over the mind. So what we should do is, mind should be placed in a particular channel by choosing a occupation, a deliberate occupation. We choose a particular occupation and then the mind should be placed in it. Well channeled, you can say. And this specific occupation, deliberate occupation, is relating to Ishwara. We can choose any occupation for that matter. People choose, meditations are of various types. But definitely we are choosing, Ishwara as an object in a mental activity. So choosing an occupation that relates you to Ishwara, well, and it's very, very important also. And how do we choose? Well, we definitely, we choose a certain mental chant. It's a mental activity and whose object is Ishwara, like a chant, Om Namah Shivaya. We choose and we are deliberate. Mind becomes predictable also because it's a chant, Japa. So when you say Om Namah Shivaya mentally, this is the first thought. What would be the next thought? Om Namah Shivaya. What should be the third thought? Om Namah Shivaya. So it's a deliberate occupation given to the mind. A particular channel has been given to the mind so that mind will not move in other channels. It will move. We'll talk about it. So definitely the japa, manasa japa, etc. has been adopted here for a solution. So mind becomes predictable, and the process of repeating the name of Lord, etc., ensures that after the first chant, the next chant will be again Om Namah Shivaya, etc. And since you have given yourself a very deliberate, chosen occupation, you can discern also that any other type of thinking is called distraction. Very important. So when you don't give this kind of an occupation to the mind goes all over, right? When you give a deliberately particular occupation to your mind in terms of a mental chant, then any other type of thinking, automatically you will brand it as a distraction. Anything other than what you have set yourself to do, at a particular time becomes distraction. They give example also, like when you are thinking of a serious mathematical problem. Suppose you are a mathematician and you are thinking of a certain very serious mathematical problem in order to find a solution, trying to find a solution, then Om Namah Shivaya becomes a distraction. Okay? Chanting Om Namah Shivaya mentally becomes distraction. So definitely distraction is a relative term. And definite, and here, much like we say weed also. Weed is also basically is a relative term. What is a weed? They say a bunch of grass. Definitely in flower bed becomes weeds. But the same grass in a lawn is there, then something else will be called as a weed. So basically, same way here, distraction is a relative term. When you choose deliberately, you give an occupation to the mind to do a certain activity, here mental chanting, manasa japa, then any other thinking automatically becomes distraction. So once you have deliberately given yourself a specific mental occupation, then you should see what happens. You start chanting Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. You should have a gap more. In fact, we are going to do meditation also. Not now, in the morning. So, Om Namah Shivaya, you should have a gap. And then Om Namah Shivaya. Don't do too fast. And then in that gap, your mind will go to other channel. In fact, today morning itself I told you. So, in a mental chanting, once you visualize a form, Shiva's form, or a linga, etc., then you should not keep on visualizing the form. You should definitely, focus your attention on the chant itself, Om Namah Shivaya, that words itself. So you are devoted to the chant, and in between chant there is a space also. And you should be conscious of the space. If you are conscious of the space, mind will not run into mechanical mode. It will not go to other thinking if you remain conscious. So Om Namah Shivaya, suppose we are chanting with a certain gap. And after just few chants, from Shiva, you go to the Shiva temple in the street. And from there you go to the endowment act or whatever. From Shiva temple you go to somewhere. Nowadays there's so many temples in our United States. Every street has a temple. What is the issue? It's for the earning some money, etc. People are building and this and that. But suppose, if you have not given this kind of a thing, and this thought can occur independently also about temple, then it is okay. It's all without control. But when you have given this deliberate occupation to chant Om Namah Shivaya mentally, then in that case, any other, going to the street and Shiva temple and all this, automatically you will discern as a distraction. That is very essential. So when we definitely, and that is how in fact children, all our children basically are initiated into chanting mantras from when they are very young, including Gayatri mantra itself. Because that is how they get a mastery over the mind. Other results are also there of the Gayatri, etc. But I'm not going into that. But basically, you will have because there when you are quite young, well, your distractions are quite less. Distractions are automatically less. And still such a mantra initiation, etc. has been there. Definitely, you will have a lot of focusing ability, which will be very helpful in the gaining education, etc. So anyway, anything other than what you want to do becomes a distraction. So each time mind wanders. Even when you give a deliberate occupation to your mind will wander. How do you say, Swamiji? It will not wander, it will go. Bhagavan himself says in 6th chapter, Yato yato nischarati tatastato niyamyaitat. Atmani eva vasham nayat ultimately. Yato yato nischarati. Suppose it leaves this chant and goes to Shiva temple or somewhere else, whatever. Tatastataha niyamyaitat. From there you bring it back. And then again it will go. Bring it back. Again it will go. Bring it back. How long we should do? Keep doing that. Practice makes you perfect. That's how it is. So ultimately, practice accounts for a capacity to bring the mind back. It will happen after some time. Well, you will be able to do immediately. As it goes, it comes back. It will happen. But initially, you will feel that mind goes away and it doesn't come back also. You are trying to make, you are trying to, as like a child, you are trying to make your mind understand that please come back, but it doesn't come back. But in course of time, it comes back. But Swamiji, that is a distraction. That's a part of meditation, not distraction. Bringing the mind back to the object, chant here, is part of meditation. That's how Bhagavan discussed in the 6th chapter also. Yato yato nischarati atmani vasham nayat, bring under your control. Anyway, so when we bring the mind back ultimately, and it remains with us, then we discover some space within to ourselves to examine the types of thinking that we engage in our daily activity. And then we can definitely choose a particular type of a thought pattern consciously and gradually bring the mind under control. So this is basically the visible result of this meditation called Manasa Japa, well, is to discover the space within us. Very sacred space. A space between you as a conscious being and the mind. Very essential. I'm going to talk about this sacred space further, which has a very big result little later. So, well, with that space, definitely to look at your emotions and ways of thinking, etc., will be possible, and one gains a mastery over the mind. So, this is regarding meditation. Now, regarding meditator. Regarding meditator, we have to talk. Next question, definitely, we may look into is, who is meditator? Very important, because you cannot meditate basically, you cannot suddenly sit somewhere and meditate. It never happens. So there must be a meditator. And this meditator is the basic person. We are going to focus more on this now. Meditation, of course, we saw. Meditator is the basic person. Who is this basic person? Well, for that I will give you an exercise. I request all of you to look at me and let your eyes focus on me for a moment. Now here, having done that, well, can you try not to see me? When you focus your eyes on me, you are a conscious being. Your eyes are open. Eyes are capable. I am there as an object of sight. Your mind is behind your eyes. Do you have a capability not to see me? No. So mind is behind the eyes are capable, there is object of sight takes place. And this seeing is not will-based. Seeing is not, before that, whether to see or not, to close the eyes, etc. is possible. Your eyes are open, your mind is behind, and I am there as an object. Sight takes place. Seeing is not will-based. After seeing, clapping is will-based. Or not, whatever. After seeing, doing some other kind of a gesture, well, to the Swami is also possible. That's all right. That seeing takes place is not a will-based. And it is definitely, seeing is based on the object of sight or the capability of the eyes, etc. If eyes are open, object is there, and then, well, definitely sight takes place. This seer is the basic person. Seer is the basic person. Well, the doer comes later. The knower is the basic person. The cognitive person is the basic person. The doer comes later. Like when you see a flower or see a rose on a rose plant, then you are a seer of the rose. That's the first thing. Afterwards, well, to go near the plant and pluck it or not, that's your choice. So the doer comes later. But first thing is, you're just a knower, a cognitive person. Well, definitely, which is not will-based. Doer is a will-based, definitely. Doer plucks or doesn't pluck, etc. So the cognitive person basically is a basic person. And he is generally free from preferences. So the basic person is highly objective. It has to be objective. You are seeing me as an object. You can't decide how I should be. Whatever I am will... This Swami doesn't have a hair. If some hair would have been there, it would be better. Or Swami should have, should have a different type of frame of mind, a frame of spectacles, etc. You don't have a choice. Whatever is there, you will see, right? Whatever is there, you see. So when you are a cognitive person, you are objective. Otherwise, knowledge itself will not take place. That's how we have a word, vastu tantram. Jnanam vastu tantram. Karma purusha tantram. Karma, action is based on the person, the doer, like his will to do, not to do it differently, all possible. But in knowing, you don't have any choice. And the first thing, in doer and knower, you are first knower. You becomes doer later, right? So knower is first, the cognitive person is first. So, well, is highly objective. You see a hill, and you say, well, there is a hill. You see a chair, and you see that you tell that it is a chair. You taste something in your mouth, and you say, well, this is an object which is sour. Afterwards, well, depending upon your likes and dislikes, you do something. Whether to take that thing again or not, it's choice. Could you follow what I'm saying? So, when there is a cold, well, where you recognize through the sense of touch, as a cognitive person, as a toucher, you recognize it's cold. Then you choose to wear jacket or whatever. Please understand. So basic person is not a doer. Basic person is this cognitive person, who is not will-based, who is objective. Objective. Cognitive person has to be objective. Anyway, so, and afterwards, well, the doing, etc., takes place. So we can understand very well the basic person a cognitive, conscious being who is objective. Very, very, very important to understand this. And well, as a basic person, if I am a cognitive person, an objective person, well, then I don't remain like that all the time. If I remain objective person, well, I will be ever relaxed, but I don't. And therefore, there is a method by which this cognitive person becomes a relaxed person, also becomes a meditator. The meditator, I said, is a basic person. Basic person is this cognitive person who is objective. So even though I am a cognitive person, but still I am not a meditator because there is a lot of subjectivity involved. I have to arrive at this meditator by doing a certain method by which I become objective, and then I become, as a basic person, I meditate, mentally relate to Ishwara. Could you follow? And it's a very simple method. That meditation we are going to do tomorrow morning, but we are first discussing this. So, an individual, I am ever related to the world. There's a difference between a living and remain alive. Right? Remain alive, you need not relate. In a deep sleep state, you are alive, not relating to anybody, to the world. In a coma, well, you are alive. You are not related to anybody. But in a waking state, etc., well, when you are living a life, you always relate to the people. So an individual is always related to something other than himself, herself. There is nobody who is unrelated anytime, all the time. Even in dream, we relate to the dream objects. Definitely in waking also, we all the time relate. And as an individual, well, basically confined to this body-mind-sense complex, I am the individual and related to the total and related to other individuals also. Exactly like a tree is related to the forest, a tree is related to the other tree also. Same way. So I am related to other individuals also. And how I am related? Well, to my parents I am related as a son or daughter. In that also I relate differently. Yeah. Father's son is different from mother's son. Yeah. Father's daughter is different from mother's daughter. Sometimes it happens that I may have a certain issue with the father. So I am very close to the mother as a son. So father's son and mother's son, or father's daughter and mother's son, mother's daughter are quite different. Anyway, so how I relate as an individual to the world? Well, to my parents I relate as a son or daughter, but definitely to my son and daughter I relate as a father, mother. To my grandparents I relate as a grandchild. To my spouse I relate as a wife or husband. So definitely to different individuals I relate differently. That individual is remaining the same. Individual remaining the same relates differently to the different people. It is exactly like playing a role by the actor on the stage. One actor relates differently on the stage. Suppose in that drama, there is a wife, of course. Then he relates as even though he is an actor, as an individual, but he relates as a husband. And in that plot, suppose there is a son, etc., then he relates as a father, etc. So basically, or he may have to, it is as a plot, he has to become a sannyasi. Then, he takes up a role of a sannyasi. I mean, one person, one individual is related differently to the different individuals. Anyway, so when I think of myself related to my parents, I am a son or daughter. And in the next moment, suppose if I happen to think or see my brother, etc., I become a sister or a brother. So this shift of the individual consciousness is just automatic in me. So person is always, one person, son, etc., is displaced by other, etc. Question is, what happens when the same individual think of God? That's the issue. If I think of my parents, I am a son or daughter. Well, if I think of my son, daughter, I am a father, mother, whatever. I think of my grandparents, I am a grandchild. Fine. When I think of God, who am I? Well, definitely at that point, I am no longer a son, because I am not thinking of a father, mother, parents, etc. So I am no longer basically a son, daughter, grandfather, grandmother, aunt, enemy, friend, nothing. So basically, you are just an individual. Just an individual, free from all the roles. When you relate to the God, definitely you are just an individual, free from all the roles. Means the basic person. The basic person who is cognitive, objective, that basic simple conscious person is relating to the God mentally. Right? And we find that when we sit in the meditation and start doing Japa, we never find that we are this basic person. Because in our mind, this whole film of people to whom I relate daily, they remain. That's how he sits in meditation. He is not a meditator. He is an angry husband thinking about wife. That's how I said, before even one meditates to the Ishwara, one has to become meditator. There is a method by which you really become free from the roles. You really become objective. This is all role, subjective thing. Actor is objective basically. All the roles are, it's all incidental. So son, father, this, that, etc. All these things basically are roles. Well, you think of any one of them, accordingly you relate. As a son, daughter, etc., whatever. But when you think of God, naturally all these things are not there. Anyway, so this, you can say very easily that when you think of a God, you are a devotee. We can say that. You are a devotee. So this devotee comes into the being when definitely one is related to Ishwara. What does it mean? Relating to Ishwara is unlike the relating to any individual. If Ishwara is an individual, well, something would have come. Like a father is an individual. I am a son with relating to him. So if Ishwara also is an individual, some individual will be there in me relating to God. But God is not an individual. Therefore, this is something, the relationship with the God mentally is something different from when you relate other people in the world. So it's very important to understand who is Ishwara. Because if that understanding is not there, you think Ishwara is some individual and you try to relate mentally, etc., which will not be so successful. Ishwara is pervading, its total, pervades you, etc., and you are related to Ishwara. That's the one thing. And then you invoke in a certain form, because all forms are Ishwara's form, and therefore you invoke in a particular form, that's a different thing. But if you take Ishwara as some individual kind of a thing, well, then you cannot arrive at this basic person. And therefore, the understanding of Ishwara is very, very important. If everything here is Ishwara, well, just as individual tree, well, in the forest, pervaded by the forest at all the time, and suppose that tree recognizes that I am all the time connected to this total, same way this devotee, the individual, has to recognize first that he is all the time related to the total, the Ishvara. And that relationship is irreplaceable. It cannot be replaced. You are all the time connected. A tree cannot definitely have that kind of incidental relationship with the forest. It is all the time there. It is irreplaceable. It has its objective reality, basically. And so, which is why during meditation, you need to be little relaxed. For relaxation, you need to bring this objectivity. When you bring the objectivity, definitely you remain relaxed, and as a basic person, you are objective person, you relate mentally to Ishwara. So who does meditation? The meditator does meditation. Individual does not do meditation, because individual plays so many roles, and as you think mentally, that particular individual, that role is invoked in you. And therefore, when you relate mentally to Ishvara, definitely you should be, in a clear terms, you should be a meditator. Who is this meditator? This basic person, who is simple conscious being, who is objective, and who is highlighting the relationship with the Ishvara, which is already there. So, to be objective is to recognize basically the reality that I am an individual who is a conscious being, and I always remain related to the total, that is also conscious being. It's not inert. This is Ishvara, who is in the form of this Jagat, and I am an individual, a conscious being, who is relating to the total conscious being. So this is how this relationship you highlight basically in meditation. And this individual basically has definitely, this individual who is a basic person as a devotee, remains throughout actually in all the transactions. Basic person remains throughout in all transactions. So as a devotee, in fact, I relate to all other people also. Of course, depending upon father, I am a son, but it is a devotee son, right? Because that basic relationship cannot go. And that is what we call it as a yoga. Yoga means what? When you relate to others, you should have that vision that everything is ultimately Ishvara. So whatever you do for something also becomes a offering to Ishvara. You are doing as a father to your son, but you know that every form is pervaded by Ishvara, and you are basically a devotee, a basic person. So as a devotee, when you relate to your father or to your son, so that devotee doesn't go away. So we are not part-time devotees. We are Sunday devotees. No. We are not Sunday devotees. We are devotee as a basic person. Pick up a particular role depending upon the individual who comes in front of you. And that devotee should remain. If devotee remains in a transaction with the other person, then automatically whatever you transact, whatever you do becomes karma yoga. That's what it is. Swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vindati manava. Bhagavan said very beautifully in 18th chapter, by your own actions, while you do archana, you worship me while relating in or transacting in the world. That's what it is. So that is how this becomes a way of life. Way of life is to recognize myself as a devotee who is connected to the total conscious being, related to, irreplaceable relationship. One has to recognize it, and that person alone assumes various roles. And therefore, any transaction becomes ultimately a worshipping the Lord in the form of a son, daughter, anything, ultimately. That's the way of life. So way of life is when you bring Ishvara in your way of life, the goal of life, which is Ishvara, becomes easy. Goal becomes easy. I used to say, so way of life is basically worshipping Ishvara through our duties. That's how we call Panchamahayagnas. Panchamahayagnas, the whole cosmos has been divided into 5 types of conscious beings, and each is manifestation of a Lord. And as a devotee, you relate to that thing. You offer yourself. That's called yajna. So if devatas are there, pitrus are there, other human beings are there, all rishis are there, other beings other than the human beings are there, So if you recognize yourself as a devotee first, which has a basic relationship with the Lord, which is irreplaceable, even if I deny it is not going to be not there, then definitely such a basic person, as a like actor, assumes various roles when he transacts with other people. And then that devotee doesn't go. From your awareness, the devotee doesn't go. So when you relate to your son, definitely as a devotee father you relate, not just father. If you as a father you relate, it's a different type of thing. As a devotee father you relate, it's a different type of thing. Relating devotee as a devotee father is called yoga. It's called yoga, karma yoga. Transacting, offering, etc. Then definitely the view of life, Ishwara, in form of Atma, is easy to gain. Anyway, this is just by the way. Why it is so essential? I'm going to discuss certain mother points, why one should be familiar with this basic person. The simple thing is, if one wants to lead a stress-free life, one has to know, who am I as a basic person? It's a different topic, but I'm going to discuss that a little tomorrow, because a lot of stress, etc. also is there. If you know it as a basic person, and what a role you play in your life, then definitely there is a space between that. It is the same space the actor has by playing a role. Actor has a space, right? So actor has a space when he plays a role of a beggar. Actor knows he is going to play a role of beggar. The actor does not have a stress. Stress belongs to that particular beggar. Definitely. It's a part of the script. He will be insulted, this, that, etc. So we are discussing from the standpoint of the basic person as a meditator, but the understanding the basic person, arriving at the basic person with a certain few steps which one has to do daily. If you arrive at these basic steps, if you arrive at the meditator, basic person, by bringing a certain objectivity in your life, well, definitely more the familiarity of you as a basic person, more distance you have from the roles you play. If actor has a basic understanding about himself, who he is, definitely. I'm not talking about Atma, just a basic person, conscious being who is objective, simple conscious being who is cognitive being. That's it. If one wants to, that's it, Swamiji. But this is how it is. Creating a space, I call it as a sacred space, very sacred space, in which you understand yourselves as a basic person, assumes various roles while relating to different types of people. Relating cannot be avoided. Freedom from relationship is impossible. Freedom in relationship is possible. Freedom from relationship is only possible when one goes to either coma, either in a deep sleep state, or one leaves the body. If you are basically living a life, you have to relate. And relationship brings stress. It should not bring, but it brings. Then how to avoid? How to avoid? Just be familiar who you are as a basic person. And that's a role. Actor doesn't have any stress, right? Actor does not have any stress, hopefully. We'll discuss tomorrow that part. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
speak for a minute. Some people are walking.
So you were on other retreat here?
Just today for these 2 days. Condition is something else.
Yeah. It's probably very busy.
I'm not more busy.
Is there are you expecting another?
I think that they're fine.
I believe you're fully qualified.
Thank you.
विश्वादियो रुद्रो महर्षि हिरण्यगर्भं पश्यत जायमानगुं सनो देवः शुभया स्मृत्या संयुनक्तो यस्मात् परं न परमस्ति किञ्चित् यस्मात् नानीयो न ज्यायोऽस्ति कश्चित् प्रेक्षैव स्तब्धो दिवि तिष्ठत्येकस्ते नेदं पूर्णं पुरुषेण सर्वं न कर्मणा न प्रजया धनेन त्यागेनैके अमृतत्वमानशुः परेण नाकं निहितं गुहायां विभ्राजते यद्यतयो विशन्ति वेदान्तविज्ञानसुनिश्चितार्था संन्यासयोगात् यतयः शुद्धसत्त्वाः ते ब्रह्मलोके तु परान्तकाले परामृतात् परिमुच्यन्ति सर्वे तक्रं विभावं परमेष्मभूतं यत्पुण्डरीकं पुरमद्य सग्रस्तं तत्रापि दह्रं गगनं विशोकस्तस्मिन् यदन्तस्तदुपासितव्यम् यो वेदादौ स्वरः प्रोक्तो वेदान्ते च प्रतिष्ठितः तस्य प्रकृतिलीनस्य यः परः स महेश्वरः हर हर नमः पार्वतीपतये ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. All the children can go, wear your shoes and go for lunch quickly. I'm giving the first one.